Good morning. Let's have a quick review for The Sword of the Lictor by Gene Wolfe. And it's going to have to be a quick review because essentially this book you could probably talk about it for a week and not run out of things to say, especially if you included the rest of the series. So The Sword of the Lictor is the third in the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, as I'm sure many people already know. I have here this lovely little timescape copy with a cover published in 1982 originally. When was this one published? I should really remember to check these things first, shouldn't I? Okay, this one was published in first Timescape printing, December 1982. There you go, with a beautiful cover by Don Mates. I have this Timescape courtesy of Rob from Alspace, who sympathised with my plight of not being able to read the Book of the New Sun because I didn't have all the books, so he completed them for me, which was fantastic. Now, when I started this, I had a brief moment of panic, thinking I'd left it too long since I'd read the third one. And I have left it a while. In actual fact, it's been The Claw of the Conciliator is one that I read back in December. So for the first few minutes, I had a sense of discombobulation. I wasn't quite sure if I would remember things well enough, but it caught up fast. So The Sword of the Lictor starts with Severian, who is telling us his biography, as it were, from someplace in the future, so we do know he survives, about the story of how he got to where he is. I can't wait to see where he is, by the way. I came very close to finishing this one and going straight onward to the fourth, but I know that doesn't work for me. So, yes, this is biographical, if you will, with Severian telling the story and us just sort of going along, self-told tale. So that makes it imminent and relatable. Is Severian a relatable character? Once again, I think that's taking us down a rabbit hole that could last for weeks. Would love to discuss it with someone one day, maybe not today. So it starts off in the city of Thrax. Thanks? No, not Alan Dean Foster. Thrax, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's Thrax. And I had that moment of panic because he's there in Thrax, having taken up his position as Lictor, which may or may not mean keeper of the chains, holder of the chains, something to do with chains, according to the internet. And he's there with Dorcas, who was one of his travelling companions in the last book. It didn't matter that I didn't remember the ending of the last book particularly well. I caught up with this one quite nicely, and it's pretty linear. Dorcas is starting to be a bit depressed. She's in this city, and she is despised because she is the companion of the Lictor, who is a member of the Torturers Guild, as Severian himself has told us several times. The other thing that's bothering her is that she doesn't remember her past. She never has remembered her past, but it's bothering her more and more. And those two threads sort of interweave for a bit in the beginning of the book, causing a fine, subtle feeling of anxiety and premonition. Now, here's one of the things about The Sword of the Lictor, and I think it went for all the others of the Book of the New Sun. This book never stops. It takes fast-paced into a whole new dimension. The plot and Severian dash around like a ball in a pinball machine, here, there, everywhere. Poor guy never has a chance to have a decent night's kip and a hot dinner. Always action. And the action starts with Thrax. We hear about the prison that he's in charge of, a little bit about his duties there, and the person who he reports to. And before we know it, we've got this other big action thing. There's something coming through the city, burning things, a salamander, one person calls it. And so that and Dorcas and Severian all create the structure whereby he once again breaks guild rules. Now, the first time he broke guild rules back in the first book, it was by enabling a prisoner to kill themselves. This time he does the opposite. He does not kill a prisoner. But again, Gene Wolfe doesn't really tell us that outright. It's slowly revealed in peels and pages as we move through this fast-paced plot. Having done so, he manages to find Dorcas and have a heart-to-heart with her. She's determined to go back, for a whole heap of reasons that I'm not going to tell you. She's determined to go back to this main city from which she came. Is it called Nessus? Something like that. And find out who she was before she became who she is now. And Severian tells her that he's going to have to flee in the other direction, north up the mountains. So we watch him on his flight, and the Claw of the Conciliator, this mysterious gem that he picked up in the last book, is throughout, as a feature throughout the book. As he flees across these frozen mountains, maybe it's steep, he has a whole heap of adventures. He goes through a forest, he finds a small hut in which he shelters overnight, but there he finds that the small family that lives there are being hunted and haunted by an Alzabo. It's a beast from which the liquor is made, which helped him metabolize his ex-flame Thecla's memories. This is starting to sound really complex to anyone who hasn't read this book, and it's sounding under-complex to anyone who has, because here's the thing about Gene Wolfe. He packs so much in. Everything that he writes is complex with meanings over meanings. And the superficial story that you could tell quite fast, that's like the surface of the river, but our river has got all these undercurrents. Somewhere under there is the actual bottom of the river, but there's so much in between, and that is this book. So he has this adventure with an Alzabo, and while he's there, he discovers that his enemy from the last book, or was it the first book? I think it was the first book. Aegea is also there. Aegea wants to kill Severian because he executed her brother, so she thinks of this as a revenge thing. She's conscripted another guy who's severely weird and probably science fiction to help with that. The Alzabo ends up consuming the whole of the family except for the youngest boy, who's also named Severian, and I think he's about 5 or 6. And then Big Severian and Little Severian go on this quest. Severian is still doing his own thing, but he's taking the boy along with him until he can find a safe place to keep him, to leave him. And the next thing they encounter is this weird jungle full of these witchy guys who decide to take them captive and then subject Big Severian to a contest of witcheries. And that's just the beginning. It's wild. Along this journey, there's a whole heap of other things. Him and Small Severian climb a mountain, and where there is a huge statue of a person carved into the hill. When they get there, they find this strange ruined town with houses they can't break into, and around one that is completely open with a dried corpse lying on a bench. And Severian encounters the monarch from the past called Typhon. I'm pretty sure that that's the name of a god, and I don't know how that ties in. One of the old gods. Greek? Probably not Greek, maybe Roman. I'm pretty sure there was an old god, Typhon, and how that old god ties in with this story, if it does, I don't know. There's so much in this book that you could spend a year researching and probably only get 1/10 of it. Anyhow, Typhon and Severian have a bit of a complex confrontation, and after that, Severian escapes into yet another local conflict, which is between some shore-dwelling people and some islanders. This is the final big deal confrontation, which takes us into the finale for this book, wherein we encountered 2 people from Severian's wandering past, and a whole heap of mysteries are unraveled and revealed. That last setting is particularly good. You've got islanders who live on these rafts on a lake, and these rafts are created by aquatic reeds that basically weave this raft upon which people live or travel. So that's quite fascinating. Now, at the end of this book, two things have changed. The sword of the Lictor, that's his sword, Terminus S, that he's been carrying all along, meets with a terrible, terrible fate, which you can discover by reading this book if you have not already. Mind you, don't read this book unless you've read the ones just before it, but you should definitely read this series. Something terrible happens to the claw as well, which will doubtlessly be further revealed in the next book, which I almost can't wait for. Now, throughout this book, there's a few things that happen. The science fiction element to this is revealed. Now, if you read about this online, it'll tell you that it's a fantasy book, which it is. It's a timescape that suggests it's science fiction, which it is. Another thing it is, by the way, is some of the most lyrical, beautiful, literary writing you can imagine. That's not something you can say about that many science fiction authors. There's a dozen of them or so, but not everyone. But there's parts of this book where Severian is ruminating on the beauty of the mountains he's travelling through, even though he's tired and he's hungry and he's in despair, but the beauty of the mountains overwhelms him. And the lyric prose that Gene Wolfe uses there keeps reminding me of Tender is of the Night by Scott Fitzgerald. I don't know if this is a comparison that anyone else has ever made, but I think it's valid, that beauty of the writing. As well as that, we've got those increasing references to space, definitely bringing the science fiction into the fantasy. So, Aga has made a link to someone called Hathor, and he's got a whole heap of stuff that never came from this world, including animals like the salamander. That was a spoiler. Sorry. Reference is made to the fact that the moon has been greened. That is definitely science fiction. You've got cliffs carved into the images of people who were also gods, who must have been after our time. My first thought was, is this a reference to Mount Rushmore in America, where you've got those carvings? No, this is something completely different, and it feels futuristic. So there's also various descriptions that Big Severian gives to Little Severian as they're travelling, and I'm not telling you where Little Severian ends up, that of operations, amputations, which can also apply to the brain. That was science fiction in 1980s, and it's still science fiction today, the way he's describing it, to allow men who no longer want to live as men to have a portion of their brain removed, just the right portion, and live as animals. There's so much in here that really, really is science fiction, and so much that really, really is literature. The beauty of the writing gives the whole thing a depth, and Severian's persistent examination of his own inner motivations and unraveling of his world and himself elevated beyond a mere very, very exciting fantasy story, which you could also read it as. And I think when I first read A Book of the New Sun back in the day, I mainly read it as a fantasy adventure, and I wasn't really picking up on the beauty of the writing, but this time I am. So, there's definitely nods to Rudyard Kipling, whether they're conscious or not. Given the fact that it's Gene Wolfe, they probably are conscious. But at one point, Big Severian and Little Severian are travelling. Little Severian asks for a story. Big Severian pulls out the leather-bound book that he inherited from Thekla and reads a story from it. And it is a clever melding of Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Tales and probably the story of Remus and Ramus, whatever they were, the two individuals who were the patrons of Rome City. Maybe more in there that I didn't get, because, as I said, there is so much in this book that I didn't get. I will try to carry on to the next one faster than 7 months. I'm very keen for the last one. I think the reading experience through the series, the first one was fantastic. The second one was still very good. This one was better again, and I've got high hopes for the fourth. Is the fourth the final? Now, I'm not sure about that, to be honest, because it looks like after you finish the Citadel of the Autarch, which is the one coming after this one, which I have, Thank you, Rob. I'm pretty sure you gave me that one as well. After that, there's also The Earth of the New Sun and The Tale of the Student and His Son, which I think is a shortened version, because the first 4 came out pretty much year after year, if I'm not mistaken. That's it. Shadow of the Torturer, 1980, The Claw of the Conciliator, 1981, The Sword of the Lictor, 1982, and The Citadel of the Autarch, 1983, whereas The Earth of the New Sun came out in 1987. So I'd like to read these 4 as a series, and then we'll see how we go with the other ones. I've also got some other Gene Wolfe that I'd like to get to. Okay, thank you for bearing with me through this rather rambling review. Look at it. There's what? 300 pages? Not even 300 pages. We are looking at 255 pages. This one packs more into it than many books around here that are about this thick, and it does it beautifully so you enjoy every second of it. So if you have not yet read The Book of the New Sun, you clearly need to. I've made that obvious, haven't I? If you read the first one, loved it, read the second one, were a bit meh, I reckon go on to the third one and take your chances. Really good. Thank you very much for watching. Read good books.